Hey, it's 2 o'clock on a Wednesday. Must be time for the weekly briefing. Good to see you. Hey, Jared, Matt, good to see your face. This is a very timely conversation. And Andrew, I'm going to give you credit for this 100%. You reached out on community and said, Tim, I have a topic for you, because you have recently been asked to do something, and you know that you're going to introduce a AI workflow. And the big question is like, how do I price that? Right? There's known rates for the outputs, but this is a totally different like work cycle. And I'm going to guess in your situation, your client even knows you're using AI and is expecting some kind of discount because of it. So tell us how this whole thing got started.
I mean, the the whole thing got started because it'd be kind of like tilting at windmills to ignore it. You know, right now, a lot of what you're seeing is kind of a lot of pieces that don't really need to fit. You're seeing kind of a lot of like really kind of interesting ideas, a lot of what's good on social, but the possibilities there. Like, we do a lot of narrative content. We do stuff for, lotteries and stuff like that. And that stuff is coming. The ability to do it uh, pretty
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
With AI is coming, so to ignore it would be kind of silly. But as we're diving into it, there are some really interesting questions, especially for us, because we're an animation house, we're a VFX house, and we're a live action production company. And mixing those things, and particularly mixing those clients who have experienced what I like to call blade of grass approval on a 3D animation, then taking them into, the AI workflow I mean, there have just been a bunch of questions that have come up, and I thought it'd be interesting to throw them out and see if see what we're all finding.
that's great. And Sam, I'm going to bring you into this conversation as somewhat of a, we'll call it veteran. I don't even know if that's even fair, right? Because really the technology is moving just out of hobby stage, isn't it? Like, hey,
hmm
it's been a hobby for a while. People are making things, people are seeing a little bit of success with the hobbies, and those hobbies are where clients are kind of knocking on people's doors. And specifically with your success of the Oregon Trail video you did, which, by the way, I'll post that here so everyone gets a chance to watch it at the end of this episode. Other ones, everyone's going to be laughing their heads off while we're trying to talk or whatever. But the work you did on the Oregon Trail was so great, and now people are knocking on your door and asking you to do something similar. So you're
Yeah, yeah.
seeing like what Andrew's walking into. You kind of see the other side of it, the doorway a little bit, haven't you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when I first started AI Ad Studio, it was to teach people in our industry how to use AI tools because I saw the wave coming. And then once the tools got better, I was like, okay, there's actually a tool that can be used, not be a replacement tool, but an extra tool that we can use to create content for people. And along the way, a lot of directors and production houses were like, can you just make us stuff? So then I launched the agency model. And on top of just creating the funny stuff like the Oregon Trail and some other brand focused like spec pieces, it actually turned into creating content for clients. In particular, it's like very like the thing with AI, it's all very like what's kind of popular at the moment. So it's like all this unhinged, like I did the Oregon Trail thing, so then clients were asking for that style for like for their brand. And then I was working with like truly hard seltzer. They wanted just super unhinged, ridiculous content that for one wouldn't been, I mean, we could have created it price shooting the type of stuff, but it would have never been worth it for the price of what they needed and how fast they needed it. So that's an interesting approach with AI too. It's because I don't see this stuff taking any of our jobs because a lot of this work didn't exist regardless. It would have never existed regardless. So if I'm
Yeah.
taking, like their one call out was like Jesus, Morgan Freeman in like a river shooting a truly with lightning bolts out of a pond. You know what I mean? Like you could probably do that in 3D, but that would take you like a month and then it would have never been worth the joke. You know what I mean? Same as the Oregon Trail. Like if I was to produce that with real actors and locations, like that would have been $1 million project. And again, it would have never happened. So I look at AI as a tool to get your ideas out, and whether that's your final product or to previs to show a producer, a studio, or a client like this is what we could do, or it's like this, if this is good enough for your brand, we can polish it in AI and keep pushing that too. So, um,
Yeah.
yeah, so that kind of just segued into creating stuff for clients. So, because yeah, like you said, they were knocking on the door and asking for stuff, and it is the Wild West because like, how do you price this stuff, right? And we can get into that later, like we said, but um, the way I price it is typically project based, not time based anymore, because you can create stuff a lot faster. And but it's also having expectations with clients of like, this is AI, this is not perfect.
Sure.
And they got to be open to that. Like, can we change this little thing? You're like, well, you could, but it's probably going to change everything in the scene. You know what I mean? So there's a whole lot of that, right? So like you got to
Yeah.
like if your client wants AI, you got to like let them know, okay, this is where it is now. This might change in the future, but this is the expectations. Like for instance, if you put in product, like I would take a truly can and the some of the text just gets messed up. It's just the way it happens.
Mhm.
Right.
And I didn't know that till 2 days into the project, and I'm like banging my head. They're like, "Oh yeah, it doesn't matter. That's fine." And I'm like, "Okay, well, that'll save me a couple days." But
Yeah, right.
just stuff like that. So, um,
Well, I'll go back to just like the idea of what AI allows us to do right now. So, as an introduction to kind of like the space that we're all kind of working in,
mhm,
it feels like we're moving from the hobby space into a professional space a little bit, right? So,
mhm,
in the case of what you're saying there, of like the joke wouldn't be worth the cost, where
right,
what we're
yeah,
getting from this AI generated content is what looks like a pretty good production quality, a higher value looking um, visuals, and which are just prompted. You don't the costs of maybe credits or time are being put into the thing, but the overall value you're getting out of it has such a high quality that we can kind of move the hobby into a production work or production quality that way. And
totally.
specifically, like with the angle you're taking, is the thought is, well, the concepts that you can come up with are so abstract and so weird, nobody would really invest. You couldn't really find a financer
Mhm,
for the Oregon Trail videos to get an ROI to tell a quick joke.
right,
But because
exactly,
now that you've made it and people can see what you're capable of doing, people are now willing to hire you to say, "Oh, I really like how you put that concept together. Can we take something abstract like our hard seltzer thing and have fun with it the same way?" So that
right.
conversion did happen from hobby to professional, didn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And it's a way to like really push your creative ideas that like I've had these ideas in my head for years of like short films I want to do and silly things like this Oregon Trail and like all these ideas. You're like, well, I could never get the money to do that. I couldn't get the crew together. Like, if I want to do in 3D animation, like this would take me like 6 months. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
for like previs or just being creative, I know a lot of people probably argue with me that it's making us less creative, but I think it's supercharging us because now we can get those ideas out. And then if we wanted to take that and make it a live action piece, then we can go to produce like this is it. This is what I want to do. Instead of them trying to pitch them an animatic or whatever other route you want to go, you can be like, this is the idea that, like the acting can obviously be way better and we could work on the dialogue, but this is more of a polished piece than just saying, hey, could we try to greenlight this thing? And it's getting to the point where, I mean, for instance, to go back to Oregon Trail thing, like I wouldn't want to shoot that at this point. I think the joke worked. I thought it was pretty funny, and just
Yeah.
all around, just to get something funny out that was in my head. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And quick
Andrew,
and
is that how it's coming to you too? Like, how did the client basically level up with you? Or did they try to level it down and say, "Hey, we don't have the budget for it. Traditional way, can you experiment?"
So, I mean, it's a little of both. I mean, it's coming from both sides. I mean, so for instance, we've been picking up AI and using it in different ways. The first way we started using it is, and I mean, beyond the normal efficiencies and kind of, plus ups we can do to processes. We've been using it in pitch decks, creating imagery or modifying imagery that is much closer to what the final product will be. That's really interesting. We've started playing around with like you were saying, kind of showing like an animatic version or a rough version. But I mean, that's also a double-edged sword, as you know, like sometimes you can show them something that they'll fixate on. And you'll kill the whole thing because you had 6 fingers and they just couldn't see past it. You never know. Um, the other side is having clients that primarily have worked with live action or animation saying, hey, like we've got 3 interns and they're pumping all this social. It's pretty good. Can you do something cheaper for us? And we're like, well, what does that look like to you? And they don't even know. We're
Right.
like, what is the trigger point for you where, a $50,000 animation becomes affordable if we're using AI to do it? And then on top of that, like the kind of other thing we're worried about is most of our clients are used to getting animation, getting their product, looking perfect. So, we did a kind of a test bed project, a test workflow with one of our clients, and it's a product. And we had to do like we basically ended up, and this was, we had kind of agreed to it before we went into it, as it was kind of a test just to make sure and see what we could, what we could get across the finish line. But we ended up doing a lot of VFX intervention to make sure that the product stayed consistent temporally through the 15-second spot, through a 15-second spot. So, something that was supposed to be cheaper and simpler became more difficult because we had to bring in VFX to fix it, which is just the nature of this whole ball
That's right.
game.
That's right. This is why I say it's still somewhat in a hobby stage because we can't depend on it as professionals to get this same quality or the same shot over and over and over again. Now, I'll say I've been working with a couple of studios that are getting it more and more perfect to that level. But part of their workflow, as many of you probably have in your workflow, if you're working with that, is looking at all the variables that come out of a prompt and then finding the right ones to put back in and then work that version again and then knowing which ones to throw back at it to get it closer and closer to perfection
Mhm.
or using secondary and third level and fourth level interactions with it. So after the first rendering is done, then they add in the product or then they add in a composite so that they're getting consistency, but they have the variable piece of, working for them. So the
Mhm.
workflow wise, I feel where it's moving from the hobby stage into the professional stage is that we're starting to now understand, or some students understand what the workflow would be or the method. And as everybody knows, anybody been following RevThink for any amount of years, we know that method is what your business is based off of. That's what you're leveraging and that's what you're talking about. So when we get into pricing, really that's the dependable nature the clients are asking for and why they're going to have you guys do it instead of them. They're like, I don't know how to get it to be consistent, or I don't have the patience or the time to perfect this thing. Can you do it for me? And that's the value proposition beyond just the cheap or material values of what you guys are doing. It's
Yeah.
getting the thing out that I know I need to get out for the budget that I have, right? That's what our exchange has always been with our clients.
And I mean,
Um,
I can tell you like where we are is we've started in the couple projects that we've done that are using these generative AI is we're kind of breaking the project up into component parts instead of, payment phases. It used to be like there's phase one, phase two, and phase three, but the creative is a phase, and then you decide to go forward past the creative and how you're going to go forward. Um, and then we go through the generative phase and you decide, is it good enough or do we have to go further forward? And it becomes an opt-in. And I don't know that that's the right solution, but that's what we've found so far.
yeah, well, that's a perfect segue too, because I think that if anyone's been around for a while, they've probably gone through a few of these stages with a tech evolution. They've been in micro stages with like an Adobe update changes everything, and we might not need to go between two pieces of software. We can stay in the same software inside of After Effects or Final Cut or something like that, and be able to still kind of get things done.
Mhm.
And on a micro scale, editors have been able to become motion designers very easily to do some basic stuff and not have to hire an animator to do things that 20 years ago they would have. For me specifically, being part of the industry, the digital advertising industry that came out of the 1990s, I can remember where just hiring a website designer, which this feels very much in line with that, where it's like people writing code was what was getting creative energy out of it. And we were hired by Netscape to launch their homepage. very big project, very, like the number one website at the time. And we were designers, not technicians. So we had to go find the technicians to do it. And that value proposition that somebody broke past hobby and could guarantee a result of what we're looking for on a piece of technology that was evolving at the time. A web browser was something new and always changing. And knowing you can hit a large audience, that's the parallel to what I feel right now, which is, hey, there's a technology, it's evolving. As soon as I hit render, the technology is going to advance itself. So I have to keep up with it. But as a technician, I'm wrapping my head around what the problem is, and I know I can get this done for you. That's a worthwhile exchange, and why clients are going to hire you. So I think that's probably where the conversations most of us having right now is, have you experimented enough to know I can give you my project? Can you do it successfully? And Sam, probably in your case, you've proven some success, had some notoriety from your like literally the hobby work product you did. And someone could say, oh, I can depend on that.
Mhm.
Right? You did it successfully. Just do what you did for Oregon Trail, and I'll give you some money. Um, and Andrew, in your case, it sounds like, hey, you used to do something for us in 3D. Can you experiment and get something closer to what you used to do, not on this platform, but work and try to get something similar? So kind of like two different needs or ways of going about it, but the work product is still very much the same, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just the and like for instance, like with comedy, you kind of have it doesn't have to be perfect, right? That's kind of how comedy's just been forever. So on the comedy side of things, it's like it's really once a client understands the AI workflow, you can kind of get away with more if it's more comedy based. Because more unhinged stuff, it's just like, well, that's just ridiculous, right? Where if you're trying to like do like really solid 3D animation, like 3D render look, that's where I don't think it's quite there yet. You know what I mean? I mean, that's you can get really great images, but again, if they're like, oh, I want to change this one thing, you're like, well, that's we got to change it all, you know? But the workflows too, like it's just a different type of workflow. Like the way you get most control, and apologize if you guys actually do know this, but if you don't, like you kind of create the image first and then you animate quote unquote your image that you created. So that's how you get more than just like text to video, which text to video is like playing the lottery. You're like, I hope this works. You're like, oh shit, I gotta try this again, And that's how the Oregon Trail, which actually, if I did that today, it would be different because I would actually build my image probably first before doing text. But when that first came out a long time ago, aka a month ago, um, you were only able to do text to video at that time to get things to talk in the tool that I used, which was VO3. But now you can actually upload images and get those to talk as well. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, but the workflow is just because it's such we're so early with all this and the way this is going, and it's like the workflows are they're going to be changing, but the foundations I think are going to stay the same, which is you can you can't really teach you can't teach style in my opinion. You can't teach like um for yeah, like style. You can't like people that are use these tools that are like just unhinged ridiculous stuff that don't have like a background in production or know what a camera is, like an aperture, lighting, like that's how you really get these things to look super pro is you speak the language that it's trained on, which is the same language that we talk when we're on set. So that's really how you get these things to look quote unquote
Yeah, that's where
professional.
like the professional nature is coming in, where you
Correct.
have a sense of what camera you would use, what lens you would use, what angles you're going to use, and the current tools recognize that same language. So,
Right.
directing terminology you have, you type that into a prompt, and you're going to get something similar to the concept you have in your head, right? So it's not just
Exactly.
randomly doing something; you're actually trying to achieve an image you have in your head.
Exactly. And the more you have that background in production, the better this stuff looks, honestly. And that's what my course teaches is all that. But, when I launched the course, then like I said, directors were finding me and asking for things. There's actually students now, they're like, actually, we don't want to do this. Can you just do it
Yeah,
for us? So
yeah,
it's an
that's a
interesting
funny one, right? That's a
thing.
change. Go
Yeah.
ahead, Matt.
Sam, how is this changing your client relationships? Like, obviously, there's like clients asking, the last 2 years, everyone wants more for less, but this is
Yeah.
fundamentally changing production. And do you have clients who are responding to that in a positive way, or is it just trying to get more cheaper stuff?
It's both, but I've yet to run into anybody that wants something cheaper. The only thing they want is faster. And when it in my world, and I imagine with your world, is faster to me is either the same price or it's more expensive. Just because it's faster, I'm not going to be cheaper. So now if I'm playing day rates, then obviously that would be cheaper because if I created 30 clips in AI, it took me like 2 or 3 days opposed to 2 to 3 weeks if I was shooting that, you know what I mean? But so that's why when I price this stuff, I typically do project based. Unless it's an agency that needs clips, then that's different. Then I kind of have to roll back to the whole day rate business model. But at this rate, because it's like just because you're creating it so fast, it should be the price should be the same, in my opinion,
Mm.
or maybe a little bit less. But I'm not making less money. I'll put it that way.
Mm.
And I'm
And
not
do
discounting
their
rates.
expectations change along the way? Like, are they, we talked about the six fingers thing, but is there a more forgiving nature, or are people still going for that blade of grass level of feedback?
Yes, so far because they just know what it's capable now, and they just want stuff fast. And unfortunately, they just want it good enough, right? They want, like for instance, the Truly client, they just wanted really unhinged, ridiculous, silly stuff. So, and it was just the models would make really ridiculous stuff, and they're like, "This is great." I was like, "Okay, well." I could have hammered on it and got it more perfect. Like you can hammer on these tools but it's almost just as much time as creating a 3D model of some of this stuff, honestly. So
Mm.
some of it's not quicker if you have to just keep reiterating and keep reprompting and keep getting new images and keep animating. It's like the same amount of time. You're like, I could have probably made that in Blender or C4D like probably quicker or the same amount of time and had more control and changed the materials and changed the lighting. You know what I mean? So um, yeah, it's interesting. Like it really is just the Wild West of this stuff. But when you're in it and you're like, this client wants AI generated because it's like a style right now. Like I haven't ran into any clients yet that want to make it not look AI, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
They kind of want to lean into the ridiculousness and lean into that it's AI. They want to use it like we're using AI. I had one client that wanted to get away from it even looking like AI. And I'm like, well, you're not going to be, you know,
Yeah.
us
That's
trying to put the blinders on is like, I don't think that's the right move, dude. Like, let's just shoot it or let's just
Yeah.
do
Right.
3D
yeah.
animation or something. Like, if you're trying to get away from it looking AI right now, like, I think in 5 years from now, we won't even be using the term AI. It'll just be like
Of course.
content, honestly. But
Mm.
right now, it's like AI is such a buzzword and people either like it or they hate it. I think it's like pretty extreme right now. Um, but luckily,
Yeah.
there's clients that are hiring us to get that look. So.
Yeah.
So
A
my
few
read
people are
on
asking,
oh
sorry,
god.
there's a few questions popping up around the plagiarism and the
Yeah.
ownership of the content. Is that like, do you have to produce things in a closed network, or is there something about clients signing off on the inability to completely own the footage, or how have you had to handle that?
Yeah, so I asked first where it's going. If it's internal, obviously I don't have to worry about it. I did have a client right when I started this stuff a few months back that was wanting to clone one of his actors to finish a movie of his. And I was like, we can do it, but I need to see your documentation that you have, you know, rights to him, like to his voice, to everything. And he's like, oh yeah, we got that stuff. But they wouldn't give it to me. And I was like, well, I can't do the project. And it turned out like he blew up at me and all this stuff. I'm like, hey man, this is like so new that I am not going to put myself in jeopardy because you can't show me a contract that you could use this guy's likeness for something like this. Because that'd be pretty extreme. Like if I saw myself that I didn't finish a movie 10 years ago and now all of a sudden, quote unquote, I finished it, I would probably be pretty upset if I never signed something. But maybe he wasn't. I don't know. I just didn't want to go down that path because there is a lot of copyright issues, especially, Midjourney's been sued by Disney and a lot of these other ones are being sued. But there's models out of China that aren't being sued because they don't play in the same,
Yeah.
copyright playground that we do here in the States. So yeah, I mean, there is a lot of it out there of where does this live? Um, so yeah, like if someone asked me, hey, could we take a Coca-Cola can and put it in an ad, I'd tell them no. Like it just wouldn't do because the thing is it would probably come back on them and not as me as the creator, but I don't even want to walk that line right now.
Mm.
Well,
And
so
go ahead.
so what I've been hearing too is like I don't know if this is a legitimate argument, but the thought that this technology is learning it and not copying it, right? So exposure information doesn't necessarily, but I trust me, I get it. But the thought process is it has to go through an interpretation process in order to give an output instead of giving a direct lift.
Yeah.
And so if you drew a picture of Homer Simpson because you looked at something and then you learned it and you did it, that's not like that's not a copyright. Well, they're not going to they're going to go after you for doing that,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
But
Well,
when
I mean,
it's the level at which we're doing it and the usage and then the claims of ownership and that kind of stuff is when people are crossing over. So there's a weird part of like, what is this machine actually doing? Is it learning
Mhm.
and practicing and getting better and better at it? And therefore has a skill, like any of us have a skill that wants to market it and are drawing objects to doing it? Or is it actually grabbing something and pushing it at such a large scale that the owner can't control it anymore? And that claim of ownership, like the rights to that actor, is, the other side of the argument is like, no, you don't get to replicate something just because you've seen it and it sounds like it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and if anytime money's involved, then obviously,
Promise.
whether it's copyrighted or not, like that is an interesting conversation I've had too. It's like, because if you think about it, it's just a big brain learning how we learn just at a much faster pace, but it can trace a lot better than I guess we can. You know what I
Right.
mean? So it is an interesting thought, and I've thought a lot about this. Like, it is a brain that we have trained on data that the same way we walk through life, but they just have way more and it's constant. Like, if we have if I have a style that I shoot or a style that I draw or a style I do 3D, it's all from stuff I've seen in the world and I've kind of just made it my own, right? Where this, yeah, so it's a very
Yeah.
interesting conversation behind it,
Yeah.
what it
And
really
not
means.
all the models are clear that way, and not all the output
Totally.
are clear that way. And there's
yeah, I
replica
mean,
of trademark information in that stuff that makes it even worse. Go ahead.
yeah. I mean, almost all of the models, with the exception of one or two that have come out recently, are trained on copyrighted material. Like you
Yeah.
cannot avoid that. And even the two that claim to not be trained on copyrighted material, they're very opaque with their language about where they got the training material, because the training material is footage, and they say, oh, we got it from all these, providers. Well, I know that I could not just provide my entire library of footage from the last 20 years. Like we have contracts that say we couldn't do that. So it's very
Mhm.
interesting. How did you do this? Beyond that, what I was going to say is we make our clients, when we do AI, sign the same contract we would do with a documentary where they indemnify us. Simply because most likely, because of the way the pipeline works right now, like Sam was right, we start typically with Mid-Journey or stills or things that we have created. But there's always the chance that Mid-Journey spits something out to me or a creative director that is just so emblematic of an artist. But we can still track, okay, well, we then took that and we did this to it and we added this and we changed this color and then we fed it through Veo 3 and then we actually had to bring in the VFX. And typically that's going to be enough to get you to fair use, but just to be safe, that's actually part of our contracts when we're using AI.
Hmm.
I
Pretty
want to
smart.
just add from a business point of view, a little bit of caution just on that too. Indemnity is great. It does kind of pass liability onto a client and to the limit of that they can afford it. So from a documentary film point of view, that's really nice, but the documentary film crew has no money. They have no money to indemnify the lawsuit, and it doesn't drop the lawsuit from you. So if you are being sued, and they're supposed to identify, they have to be able to pay up. So there, unless there's an insurance policy backing up the indemnity, you have
Well,
to be very careful. So I just want everyone to know, like, just putting words in a contract isn't the indemnity; it's the ability to pay the indemnity is what you want. So
Hmm.
do more due diligence and talk to
yeah.
people when you get down that path. But you're right, there is something that just says to your client, "Hey, I'm passing the liability on to you, or you have a responsibility if you're asking me to do something on your behalf. I'm working on your behalf. It's your liability, not mine." That's a very smart like buy-in that they have to be part of. And if they're not willing to, then yeah, be very careful and
Hmm.
possibly walk away.
Yeah, I should have been clear. Like when I talk about documentary films, I'm talking about
Yeah.
basically anything fair use is only fair use if the documentary film's insurance company says it is.
Exactly right. It's insurance companies
Like
that are
if you're like,
doing
well,
it.
I followed all the
Yeah,
rules. If the lawyers say no, then it's a no.
that's
So
right. You
yeah,
got it.
we're only working with companies who are big enough to pay and actually take on and shoulder that indemnity. We wouldn't do this for smaller clients.
Yeah. So here's what marketplace confusion, I think, when it comes to pricing and putting yourself out there, is I feel like there's two industries that are actually intersecting at this moment, right? We have, we'll call it the traditional one, motion graphics, digital animation, what have you. That actually has gone through many stages from the implementation stages back in the day when people were experimenting and paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for digital animations. But what happens over time, because people are making lots of money, is competition shows up. And as competition shows up, modularity shows up. I can go to you or somebody else because they seem to have similar skills. That's where the differentiator, or what Matt preaches a lot, makes the biggest difference. How are you different than the other person is your marketing responsibility when that modulation shows up. But no matter what, the markets always get to a point of commoditization, right? So like it just does, like the price for something just moves it so far out because the competition moves it so far out. To me, we have the traditional moving that way towards commoditization. At the same time, this AI tool is coming in, and the AI tool is moving the motion graphics world faster into commoditization because we're really saying it's a shot. If I can get a shot from you or a shot from AI, it's just a shot, right? But what's really happening is a new wave is coming in, and that new wave doesn't have implementation in place yet. So clients are going to need to, and will start paying for you building a model for them, an AI model for them that they can start to work with, or building out a model for a project, for a campaign, maybe for a brand, that kind of stuff. And you might have a role in that model where you only do the visual information that's going into it and someone else is programming pieces of it. But because the implementation isn't done, it's confusing right now. Like we don't have really work to do, the work that we're used to. No one's hiring us to do that work because the AI model have to be built in order to grab that work and put it into it. If I'm going to train a model on Andrew, your work you're doing, I want you to go shoot a bunch of footage so I can train a model on it. I have to have the model built first, and that part is going slower,
Mhm.
and people are just experimenting. So I think that's where the transition is right now, and kind of confusing. One side feels like it's being pushed out, and the side that's pushing in isn't ready yet. So this is getting cheap as fast as possible, and this isn't ready for prime time yet. And those two things have this weird crossover. That's what we're going to experience for I think the next year or two, is where do I fit my company, my role, my skills fit into it, and what is the value of what I'm doing. But I'll just say right now, the better place to put yourself if you're dealing with AI is currently right now in the implementation phase, working with the client, explaining how it works. Sam, it sounds like this is what you do with yours. There's almost like an education
Mhm.
element to it. And really specifically, like this is a total F you pay me moment where like, and then you're gonna pay me to teach you how to do this. You're gonna pay me to implement this. And I know it sometimes that might feel like, well, if I implement that, I just made myself unemployed, right? Because I'm going to spend 4 months showing somebody how to do it and then get a year's worth of content out of it. Didn't I just lose a year worth of content? But I think what we're not recognizing is once that model is made, again, Sam, I think you picked up on this, is like once that model is made, there's something totally unique going to come out of that. And we don't know what that is yet until those models are built. So I
Yeah.
think there's almost like a transition moment that we know how these tools work and we're going to get the product out of it. But
Well, yeah.
that's where we are. It's like one, if we price our traditional stuff, we're going to race ourselves towards the bottom, and we don't know how to price the new stuff because those models aren't there yet. So we're in this kind of middle ground right now.
Yeah, an interesting thing too, with all the clients that I have creating content for them, every single one of them so far knows how to use all the tools and knows how to create stuff that they quote unquote wanted. But the interesting thing was none of them wanted to do it, and they were like, we like what you do better. So it goes back to like, a style or like a teaching somebody's style is so tough. Opposed, you can teach somebody, You can give somebody like a really nice DSLR camera and say, go take a great picture. And they might take a picture and make a really shitty one where, you could hand a professional a point and shoot and they could take an amazing picture. Like it's something along those lines. But what was weird is I wasn't expecting for my clients to have used these tools, know how to use them, know how to talk the talk, like everything. They were like super vetted on AI and still hiring people to do the work.
Yeah.
So that was something I
Because
didn't expect at all.
because it is one again, it's like also it's something to do at one time. I got this look out of it once. Can you
Right.
make me a campaign? Like, can you
Totally.
repeat this action for the next few months? That's a very different
Yeah.
exchange than like, oh, I made something cute. I
Yeah.
like
And
this.
it's still
Can you
work at
animate
the end of the
this?
day.
Yeah.
It's still like it's still doing the process, it's still creating the content, it's still going through the motions of doing that, whether it's this tool that's obviously a lot quicker in times, but can be the same process of doing something in motion graphics world. Um, some of the stuff I'm like, I could have filmed this in 2 hours where it took me a day and a half to generate it, so um yeah,
So
it's
let's go to the
interesting.
question at hand that we presented at the beginning of this hour, and then let's open it up because I think there's probably a lot of good questions, and I'd love to hear other people's experiences too, what they're having with clients. It's a good moment for all of us to learn from one another. But just going around the horn, the four of us, pricing. Right now, if you had to price a project, where do you lean towards in pricing the project? And Sam, I'm gonna make you go last because I think you know the
Okay.
answers better than us. But let's start with Matt. Matt, where would you, if you had a price a project, a client came to you and said, "Hey, can you make this for me?" And I want you to use AI generated content. How would
I
you price
mean,
that?
we would definitely be sitting, like if it was a commercial project with a commercial timeline, i.e., 4 weeks, we'd definitely be pricing it like a normal job. And I find that none of the clients we're working with in Sydney understand it. They don't really know. They kind of like, I hear that you can make an ad in 2 days, but is that true? So it's this myth busting thing. But then when it comes to doing long form shows, we've been taking this attitude where the creator I work with says like every show we ever wanted to make always looked too expensive. But I think now we can make now we can make an expensive looking animated 10-part show for the budgets that people actually have. So it might be
Sure.
that we can make something that looks like $20 million for $12 million.
Matt
But
wants both sides of this tortilla. He wants when he's getting paid to get paid like he used to, but when he's spending, he wants it to be on the AI side. Matt,
yeah,
you've found exactly the piece. Exactly. Okay. So, but it sounds to me like when it came to pricing, if someone came to you, you would use existing market rates in a way or market value of like it usually costs $40,000 for a commercial like this. I'm going to price this thing in that range. And then you're gonna work really hard with the technology to make it all fit in that $40,000. And
yeah.
we've all heard horror stories where people made promises and they had to finish it in 3D in order to finish it and spend more than the 40K. But okay, Andrew, how about you? Where are you leaning now towards pricing this thing? You kicked this whole thing off, so
I mean, it's interesting because I don't know. I mean, I know that we look at a project and we say, okay, well, we still have to write it. We still have to go through creative. That's the same. We still have to edit it. That's the same. To a certain extent, we're creating the entire sound mix. So like all of those are remaining the same. It's really the kind of the production phase, and we're still figuring that out.
okay, so for me, I always kind of think of like, do I sell the pizza by the slice or do I sell the pizza by the layers, right? So more expensive layer has more junk on it, or is it the bigger the slice kind of a thing? Right now, I'm kind of thinking like, oh, I want to layer this sucker. So I would want to get paid for each stage. Hey, in the exploration stage, I want you to pay me. In the implementation stage, you want to pay me. And execution, I would want that client to be part of it, but we're going to be playing the lottery a little bit. I'm going to show you these key frames, and then I'm going to show you which one we chose and why, and kind of direct this thing through these key items and teach that client the method, but kind of put my pricing back there. I'll bet I would end up with the same price that Matt ends up with, but I would want to bring them into this new model of working than just leaving them kind of like give me the money and then it's a black box and come back to you with the final product. I think I'd open that black box a little bit and teach it on that side. Okay, Sam, how do we really do it? What's really happening out there?
So I present it based on kind of like a three-step approach. It's like bronze, silver, gold package, or however you want to say it in those terms. But, it's like, do you just want a 15-second spot? Do you want a 60 and a 30? Just kind of the same language we've always talked, or do you want like a whole campaign? And then, but it's always like, well, what's your budget? What's the price? So I'll give them a price. But before I do that, and I've taken this approach, is instead of asking what their budget is, I ask them, where's this living? Where's it going? Is it going to Meta? Is it going to YouTube? Where is it? Okay, what is your ad spend? How much are you spending a day on this? Is it $1,000 a day? Is it $100 a day? Is it 10,000 a day? And how long you run it for? Then you got an idea, okay, they're serious. They're a serious player. They want to create content that actually converts, right? Like that's all we're doing as creating content for advertising. We're trying to sell product for our clients. It's really simplest way it comes down to it. So using AI tools to do that, I'm not charging them a day rate. I'm charging them based on the project and the performance they're looking for to get out of it. And again, but as Andrew was saying, we're still writing it, we're still editing this, we're still doing the sound. The thing that is quicker is the production side of it, of creating the shots. That is a lot
So
quicker.
would you still model it as a flat rate, like trying to get to a flat rate?
Yeah, and but it's also like client dependent. I'm not going to give Coca-Cola the same rate as I would give the mom and pop shop down the street.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I
I
mean?
think where I differentiate is that in the modular thinking, I'm leaving myself open to overages. It's almost like in web development, you have these gates and you work with the client and you give them a certain timeline and certain way you can fudge it. And if they go past that beyond the scope,
Hmm.
that idea of scope creep. In web development, you charge somebody for that. And I would almost imagine like explaining how we're going to work, giving people the cues along the way and letting them know that each of the price points I gave them has a set duration to it or approval to it. And if they
Hmm.
want to keep fudging it, no problem. They just keep paying to fudge it. But when they're done, you kind of lock it and then you move to the next, you close that gate and you move on to the next piece of the puzzle.
Yeah,
Um,
that's exactly like for like the bronze package, you get like one revision. The next one
yeah,
they get three, the next one they get five. So it's, to help with that creep. And then if it goes past that, then it's going to incur costs, whether,
yeah,
is that a day rate? And the thing is, I have done day rates with agencies that just want clips. They just wanted clips. They had their own editor. So that was an interesting approach of going a day rate, but I just charged them my director rate, honestly. So,
yeah. I feel
because
like you're on the edge of. I mean, I don't know how old you are, Sam, but do you remember post houses? Like when you would actually like
that's
book
where I
somebody
started. I
by the
started a
day and
post
oh yeah,
house.
okay,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. But like the post house phenomenon was so interesting because you could get them to flat rate, but there was always some parameters. And if you showed it, you could sit behind the artist and watch them work. You could interact with the artist and try to get it done faster. So there was a collaborative element to it,
Hmm.
but you were spending your money. There was no confusion when you were sitting in that room or you booked somebody that it was their money. It was always your money you're spending. They gave you the bid, but it was your responsibility.
Hmm.
And I feel like the little bit of that post house model could creep in for some people and say, no, I'll do it for you. But here's the rates, and you're going to spend your money when you sit with us or work with us or add time to us or whatever. And for some of the elements, other elements, I feel like you can lock it, snap it, and get it done, finish it in certain ways too. But
Totally.
yeah, interesting. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to open this thing up, see what other people are thinking too. I'm going to start removing spotlights. It gets kind of weird when I do this because then whoever's last is the last one. I'll make Matt last, so he's the last one because the spotlight
That was
removed.
awkward.
There's no easy way of doing it. Jared, I saw you kind of pitching in some stuff here. You're interfacing with clients now, and they're using your material for their work. Is that what it looks like?
Yeah, yeah, we got a few that are doing that. We just actually had a big meeting on Monday with the entire studio talking about how we should handle any AI projects that are coming in or any type of AI tools platform, especially clients who are taking the work that we've done in the past and generating new work, especially like anything that's illustration based. And we got one big client doing that. They didn't even ask us. They just started doing it. And then they came to us and they just don't understand because they came to us, they're like, hey, can you create a bunch of illustrations that we can take it for all the marketing and prompt in Midjourney and create even more because it doesn't look like how you guys do it. Well, it looks like how we do it because it takes a long time to do it and the artists have a certain style. So it really upset the artists. One, they're like, why didn't we fire the client? Why aren't we charging the client? And it doesn't work that way. And one, we're under a deeper contract with them. In our SOWs, we can try and put in the new SOWs like, do not use our work without permission uh, in any kind of machine learning. Because the other thing they don't understand is when you take the stuff that we've done for them, one, they're just paying for if it's a video, they're just paying for the video. They're not getting all those illustration assets and raw files. But they don't understand that. So they might be pulling frames or taking some illustrations that were used in the campaign. Now they're uploading it to Midjourney or ChatGPT, and they're trying to, I don't know if chat, a lot of people are using chat, but I don't know if you can upload images. But Midjourney is one where you're now feeding public a certain style, you're feeding a model, and they don't realize that. So we're having to educate clients like before you do that, once you talk to us first.
Yeah.
It's actually really, I'd say there's 25 of us, not including contractors. Out of the 25, we have about maybe 50-50. The studio is like, they're okay with AI. Like we're as a pipeline, as a tool to make things easier. They're understanding. I'd say about 20%, 25% of it, like absolutely hate it. And they were asking, can we just say we don't want to be on any project that has any AI in it?
Wow.
That's the thing that's happening right now where
Yeah, almost like it's that horse has left the stable, hasn't it? Like, what are you gonna do? Like, yeah, you could
yeah
rewind to 1980 and start over, I guess, but it's not. I don't know if that's.
yeah
I don't know that resistance is gonna. Yeah, that's it.
It-
Yeah.
yeah yeah anyways, yeah, so we do have clients who are just hopping on platforms and generating, and one actually came back to us about a month ago and said, hey, this doesn't look like, I can't generate anything. Like I can create a couple images but I can't do any video. Can you guys create this? It's an internal video. So we did a whole video produced in AI, but there's a lot of VFX. We had to do a ton of color correction, ton of compositing to end up making this video look cohesive and decent.
So it sounds like to you guys are kind of working on the education level with your clients, working alongside them, helping them understand something, understand protocol. How about anyone else? What's your interactions with your clients right now when it comes to pricing, getting projects awarded, arguing internally with your team when it comes to this stuff? Anybody have a success story? Go ahead, Hung.
I don't have a success story, man, but it's really annoying that we get so many inquiries with AI being a component of it. It's like to the point where I think on the client side, whether they're looking for efficiency or some agency creative is looking to win an award because they're on the bleeding edge, whatever the motivation is, there are just like more and more. And I honestly don't know how a studio can hold out not using it,
Yeah.
you know?
So when you're getting the request, one of the requests I think we all understand right now is efficiency. Just imagine like, do you have AI that can do all the different formats? So make one output, but then make all the different formats I need to for all the social media platforms. That's one way of kind of like looking at the tool and what it's capable of doing. And if you have
Yeah.
that model in place or you have that workflow in place, then the answer to some of those efficiencies are yes.
Yeah, I question Tim for the group here is really like because AI is not at the point where we can just use AI and produce final products, right? So I think Sam mentioned early on that he got a pricing model for AI work. But what we find a lot of times is that it becomes a tool in your toolbox. It's part of the same thing, it requires just as much work to do it. So how can we change our pricing, even though, all the clients are asking for lower price because, hey, you're using AI, right? Oh, it's just one of the tools. It's not the whole thing.
Well, when can I ask? I'll ask you this, Hung, but anybody can answer this as well. But when you say it costs the same, right? Hey, I'm going to use AI, but don't think of it as that much more efficient. It costs the same. Can I just argue the other side of that? That what Sam said earlier when he made his Oregon Trail videos, he's basically saying there's no way it doesn't cost the same. He spent 4 or 5 days making a comedic piece or whatever that would have cost millions to do. Now, the reality is it took him 5 days, and he should, if he was doing this for a client, he should got paid those 5 days. I think that's what you mean, right? But the thought is that can you make a totally different looking something in that same time period than if you just did it in 3D, traditional 3D, or if we had to go run around and shoot this thing?
Yeah, I guess it depends on your knowledge of AI and how you're using it currently. Like
Okay.
for us, currently we're using it more like a previous tool. So you use it to generate, say, 20 different looks, and then you curate it, you mismatch it together, and you actually create the final look yourself. So that's why I'm saying that, it's actually part of the like early dev process and not like integrate into production where you actually have to go back in and fix the final product, because AI spit out something for you.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. How about others? Are you being asked by clients to do something? Are you seeing this favorably? Anything that you've been able to do that you could not have done without working with AI tools? Jordan, go ahead. Because I've been watching your stuff. It's making me laugh.
How did you know that I turned my camera on to try and contribute to this lively conversation?
The camera turned on and the microphone turned off. The mute turned off. I knew you were jumping in. I could read the signs.
Well, I think at this point, there's two different ways to look at it. And one is that it is an arrow in the quiver, like Hung said, and like how am I, so I just did a previs for a book and put the etching on the old boat captain's journal. Did it in AI, put it in the real situation, and one of the agency people thought I went and shot it. It was that good. I'm saying it took me maybe 45 minutes tops. I even matched the practical location we're shooting next week. But I don't charge for that because that's part of the previs, and I'll realize the savings that shot is something we signed off and designed in prep like we would storyboards, but better.
Right.
So I think we're all going to have to offer some rudimentary AI previs, using the tool, just like agencies send me boards. And I think they did a photo shoot for their boards. They're looking so good. And that was a year ago. Right? Is this making sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
That it just ups our game. The other way to get paid is for our talent, which it sounds like what Sam did is whether it was 5 days or 5 hours, the idea, the point of view, and the final product warrants the price. So I'm personally going to go after like small local businesses and offer them my national commercial vibe at a fraction of the cost because I can do it with a handful of people, like hire an AI artist, conjurer, the way I would sign a director. So I don't know that, I think it's not going to be a huge payday, but it's allowing us to deliver more for less without it costing more.
Yeah. Or as Sam said, this work didn't exist before. The local person was never going to hire you. So now you get to open up a larger market because of the access to the tools.
And
Yeah.
what really kicked my ass was an agency that's very prominent announced a few weeks ago their in-house AI shop that'll handle some production photo shoots and AI shoots, which was kind of gobbling up the thing that didn't exist that now exists. They want to own it.
Yeah, of course.
So
Yeah.
we better offer that too. The days of like, I changed my whole website. Who cares? Is there any agency people on this call before I say this?
I don't think there is.
My
Not anybody that would be
loyalty-
offended by anything you have to say.
They've
Like,
got
my
their cameras off,
loyalty to
Jordan. You
the
can say what you
agency.
want.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Matt. My loyalty to ad agency work went out the window about a year and a half ago as client direct happens. And then when I see they're all having in-house production, they've had in-house editing, now they're going to have AI. it's every person for herself.
Yeah. Well, we know that's part of that trend I was talking about. The trend that's going out is where everyone's basically fighting for the same body of work, because that's all that's left is basically digital work. Yeah. If you're a listener to the RevThinking podcast, if you're not, subscribe right now. It's called RevThinking. It's on every podcast platform that you know of. My latest podcast was with the founder of Media Monks, now known as Monks, Wesley Tahar. And he's talking about what Media Monks is leaning into. And kind of, Jordan, it's a different scale, but it's the same argument you're making, which is, hey, there's basically a service that is necessary and available if we can meet the need. And they know that they can hit a certain scale of product or output, then digital marketing will be more effective than it is right now. So they're leaning into, on behalf of their clients, making more content, larger demographic ranges for them or whatever it needs to, and get that work done. And depending on AI modeling to allow those brands to do that stuff. So there is, even you're thinking somewhat of a smaller scale, Jordan, but even on a global scale, there are people asking that question and leaning into that as a possibility for sure. And if you have not heard that interview, you should listen to it. It's really, really great. Andrew, you were going to say something.
I mean, I guess I was going to ask Jordan, but I think he kind of answered it. Like, is he portray? Is that a separate offering? Like, we keep talking about it as being like an addition to the market, but is it a new market? Because we're not treating it the same as kind of our normal pipelines.
Are you the latter or the former?
The latter, like the idea of going off to smaller businesses and offering kind of your directing behind AI chops. Is
It's
that
a new offering.
and
Yeah.
yeah.
And I see Jared just put in, we don't want to produce 45K project for 15K. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not going to help. But someone that only had 15K that could never have it, I would take their 15K and turn it around in a couple days.
Yeah. You can make 15K faster, right? The client's not going to give you 45, but you can do $15,000 in 2 or 3 days, which might usually cost you 2 weeks. That's that reduction of price, but also the time, the efficiency of that time. That's the win here. The downside is you have to find more clients. You have to find 3 times as many clients to get to the $45,000 cash flow you're used to. So as a corporation, that's some of the hurt, but there's a win or margin in the areas if you can right size your company or find the right flow.
I'll just add that I think that with those smaller clients, the key would be the old-fashioned subscription, where we're going to do $15,000, but every X amount of weeks, we're going to do another one. And then, like a drug dealer, we get them hooked.
Yeah. And that's the Media Monks model, or the Monks model.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Saying we're going to make continuous novel content instead of repeated the same commercial for 6 months. We can actually make 6 months worth of content for the same budget. Yeah. It's an interesting time, isn't it? Like just what we're up against here. I think I'm going to lean into this conversation a bit more over the next few weeks, and possibly during the month of September, grab some of these experts I've been talking to in the field and put together a quick series for us. So I don't have to talk about my podcast and have you go listen. We can just pull in some of these experts and have more of this conversation too. I just feel like there's so many moving parts, and I think it's important for us to be in the right mindset and not be confused on what's leaving and what's coming in, and try to make those comparisons, but recognize the reality and possibilities, and see if we can't help you guys figure that stuff out. So keep your eyes open, I guess. I'm thinking about it, but Matt just shook his head with a big yes. So I guess I'm gonna have to do it because Matt's gonna make me do it now.
The kids want to know.
Before we jump off, I want to thank Andrew and Sam, both of you guys, for contributing today. It was great. Andrew, thanks for kind of kicking this off. Great question. And this is where he shows RevCommunity works, because Andrew found me in RevCommunity, wrote that thing to me in the chat, and put that thing out there. So Andrew, thanks for doing that. And Sam, As always, great to talk to you. You always kind of move my chains when I kind of dive in and have conversations with you of what's going on. So again, kind of just boosting us forward to what's really happening out there. And I know you've told me you're just starting off too. You don't know, you don't feel like it, all of it, but if, to
Right.
know that you're kind of on the front end and diving in is pretty exciting.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me too. It was awesome chatting with you guys. And yeah, if you guys have any questions too, just hit me up directly. I can talk about this stuff for days. But I think just to close with it is like, I know a lot of people don't like this. They hate it. They're afraid of it. I just like lean into it a little bit, start playing with the tools and just see what's out there and see if you can get ideas out quick and if it could turn into profitable things for your clients. I don't see that being such a bad thing. Um, you know, it's just another tool, honestly. And we just really got to look at, what we're using it for. And I use it for advertising for my clients. So that's the biggest thing that I'm using AI for. So that's kind of, I don't know, that's what's one in on that. So
Yeah. Thank you.
no problem.
Yeah. Andrew, couldn't tell if you were ready to say something. Did I catch you off?
Me?
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
You did. I got you for a moment. I was like, whoops, I was going. Well, it was great meeting you guys. It's been a good hour. So I usually try to cut this thing off way past hour, but I love this conversation. I think it's great. And I think where we're all processing is really exciting. And I know it's a little bit nerve-wracking. So like I said, I'll make this promise and keep it. I'm going to lean into this a bit more and see if we can't put together a series for us to wrap our head around. In the meantime, feel free to jump into RevCommunity, be part of the conversation there, and encourage one another on all platforms. See what's out there, and give everyone the thumbs up and comments that they deserve for this stuff. If you don't follow Jordan Brady, you got to follow his posts. The Jordan Brady has great genes, is what I've heard recently. That was a rumor I heard. So, and if you haven't seen that video, it'll make you cry for more than one reason. So. All right, everybody. It was Sam.
Yep.
Where can people find that Oregon Trail video?
You can go to it's on TikTok, like it's kind of everywhere, but if you just want to go directly to my site, you can see it natively. It's aiadstudio.com. I can throw it in the chat too.
aiadstudio.com.
Yeah, then
Yeah.
if you just go into the agency tab or the hire tab, you'll see all the work there, including that. There's part 1, part 2, and some other content on there as well.
Yeah, super fun. I just look for more content. I almost want a whole series of
I know. I'm
stuff like
thinking
that.
about putting a whole series together. Like I did 2 parts. I don't understand TikTok at all, and I started a TikTok account to post that. And with 250,000 views in 4 days, and then I started messing with my account, going from business to personal. Then I got shadow banned. So I still don't know how to use TikTok. I'm like 43 years in, so I think I'm like maybe too old to use
I think
it.
I've seen knockoffs of your stuff because I think I've
Yeah,
seen
there
people
is.
like the
There's for
Roman
sure.
Empire version
Yeah.
of it and all this stuff. So
There's
it's,
like some other Oregon Trail ones where it's like one of the characters, and it's kind of funny. So
yeah.
yeah. That's
Start a
just the
little
internet,
trend.
though, right? So
Scam is viral. That's what I know.
yeah.
All right, all y'all. Good to see you. Happy Wednesday too. We'll see you next week. Have a great
Right.
week.
See ya.
Goodbye.